Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Rob Thacker. I'm the music director here at St. John's. Please join me in singing our song for Gathering 391, Voice Still and Small, and Rise Embody Your Spirit. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
I invite you to join me as you're able. I think you can see most of the words in reciting our chalice lighting. Let's start over. O light of life, be kindled again in our hearts as we meet together this morning to celebrate the joy of human community, seeking a wholeness that extends beyond ourselves.
Good morning. I'm Alicia Russello, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to St. John's Unitarian Universalist Church. Here we offer a community of hope, a community that can journey with you through life. A warm welcome in particular to our visitors, both in person and online. St. John's is proud to be a welcoming congregation. We seek to be a spiritual home for all, and as such, we honor and value the racial, economic, cultural, age, physical ability, sexual orientation, and gender diversity of our members and visitors. There are many great things happening in St. John's. Please review your order of service, and you may want to check out the TV in the lobby or bulletin boards in our fellowship hall. Now, if you could please put your phones in church mode. And again, welcome to St. John's.
Please rise and embody your spirit, and we'll sing hymn 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. We'll sing it through the first time in unison, and then you all know how it works. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fantastic.
Come,
I'd like to invite you to say our affirmation. There we go. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. And I'm so excited for our stories for all ages this morning. We have a story, and Iris will be leading our story this morning. So come on up, Iris. And I'd like to invite everybody who would like to join in for the stories of all ages. If you'd like to come up, that'd be great.
Hello? Oh. I can hold it for you, Iris.
This book is called Milo Imagines the World by Matt De La Pena, pictures by Christian Robinson. What begins as a slow, distant glow grows and grows into a tired train that clatters down the tracks. A cool rush of wind quiets into a screech of steel, and when the doors slide open, Milo slips aboard. The train bucks back into motion as he and her sister squeeze onto bench seats. The whiskered man beside Milo has a face of concentration. A businessman has a blank, lonely face. The wedding-dressed woman near the far door has a face made out of light, while the dog peeking out of her handbag has no face at all, just a long, lolling tongue. These monthly Sunday subway rides are never-ending, and as usual, Milo is a shook-up soda. Excitement stacked on top of worry, on top of confusion, on top of love. To keep himself from bursting, he studies the faces around him and makes pictures of their lives. At a downtown local stop, the whiskered man folds up his crossword and hurries off the train. Milo imagines him trudging through brown mounds of slush. It's a 5-flight climb to his cluttered apartment, where he's greeted by mewling cats and burrowing rats. Parakeets tweet songs of longing as the man sips tepid soup, hunched over a game of solitaire. Late that night, the door to the parakeet cage mysteriously falls open, and the cats gather on the cold sill to watch the birds fly free above the city. Milo tugs his sister's sleeve and holds up his picture. But even when she turns to look, he can tell she doesn't see. She's a shook-up soda, too. A boy in a suit boards the train with his dad. His hair is a perfect part, and there's not a single scuff on his bright white Nikes. Milo imagines the clop, clop, clop of the horse-drawn carriage that will carry him to his castle. Imagines the clink, clink, clink of the guards slowly lowering the drawbridge. Across the human-made moat, the boy is met by a butler, 2 maids, and a gourmet chef offering crust-free sandwich squares. Milo flips to a fresh page at a bustling midtown stop when the wedding dress woman strides off the train, and a band of street performers launches into Here Comes the Bride, and everyone on the platform stops and cheers. Milo imagines the grand cathedral ceremony where the couple will be pronounced husband and wife. Imagines the groom whisking his new bride to a waiting hot air balloon where the pilot loads him in with blankets and blasts the heat. And up, up, up they go, hand in hand, beyond the concrete walls of the city, into the infinite blue. Milo holds up this picture too, but his sister shoos him away. Can't you see I'm playing my game? He watches her thumbs bang around her smudged screen, then turns back to the boy in the suit. They lock eyes for a few long seconds, and suddenly it feels like the walls are closing in around Milo. The spell is broken when a crew of breakers bounds the train, announcing, "You all ready for a show?" Several curious faces look up as the beat drops. And now the girls are walking up walls, they're whirling around poles, they're backflipping over shopping bags. When the train pulls to the next shop, they stop. They collect a few dollars and scramble for another car. Milo imagines them going from train to train, doing their act as everyone watches. But even after the performances are over, the faces still follow their every move. When they walk down the electronics aisle at the department store, when they cross into the fancy neighborhood. Milo doesn't really like this picture, so he puts away his pad and turns to his reflection in the window. What do people imagine about his face? Can they see him reciting his volcano poem to the class? Can they hear his mom's soothing voice reading him a bedtime book over the phone? Can they smell the Chile Colorado bubbling in a pot in his auntie's apartment near the cemetery? Butterflies flood Milo's stomach when it's finally their stop. He follows his sister onto the cold station platform and up the stairs. Above ground, he's surprised to see the boy in the suit a few paces ahead. He's even more surprised when the boy joins the long line to pass through the metal detector. Milo's sister suddenly bends to give him a hug. "I didn't mean to snap at you," she says. She takes his hand, adding, "You have your picture ready?" He nods, feeling the warmth of her fingers. As they slowly shuffle forward, Milo studies the boy in the suit, his dad rubbing his thin shoulders, and a thought occurs to him. Maybe you can't really know anyone just by looking at their face. Milo tries to reimagine all the pictures he made on the train. Maybe he could have done it like this instead. Or this. Or this. "Welcome home." Milo's chest fills with excitement when he spots his mom through the crowd. His sister rushes to give her a hug before pulling Milo in too. And it's in this tight tangle of familiar arms that he feels most alive. When they separate, Milo flips through his pad until he finds the right picture. "I made this for you," he says, holding it up. And he watches for the smile he hopes will spread across his mom's face. The end. Unitarian Universalism is a tradition that welcomes people who believe many different things.
And we come from many different places. We offer a community that will be with you through the joys and the concerns that come into your lives. Each week at St. John's, we honor the experiences of our lives in our ritual of stones for joys and concerns. Here at St. John's, we do this by placing stones representing what we carry into the sand that represents our community over all of the generations we've existed. If you would like a joy or concern to be read, please leave them on the table. And if you're online, you can put your joy or concern into the chat, and we will read it during the service. online. And we light the candle today to represent the love that is within this community. We have, is that a spoken? Okay, we have just one spoken. Joy today. Carol Fensel wrote that she is grateful to be able to share online. Welcome, Carol. This morning while we are still restricted by reoccurring COVID. And for all of those in our community who are restricted by COVID right now, we hold them in our hearts.
I sent another concern from John Kachuba on Messenger.
Oh,
It also relates to COVID.
I was looking at the wrong person. I'm sorry. I thought Joetta was the online person, so I was looking at her. And she's over there being innocent. John Kachuba, so Carol's probably fine, everybody. Now that I look at the date, that was in September. John Kachuba shared a concern, healing thoughts for all those dealing with COVID. And as Claire said, it relates to the same topic. Goodness, it's that kind of day today. I invite you to join me in centering and relaxing for a moment with these words by Reverend Mark Bellatini. Let my body remember. Let my hands and feet remember. Let my breath remember those who have come before me, those who have come before us. Didn't Muhammad wait quietly in his cave? Didn't Jesus sigh silently by the blue lake? And Guan Yin, didn't she sit in silence, thinking about what to do before doing it? And what was Siddhartha, the Buddha, doing anyway under that tree, if not just sitting quietly? And Susan B. Anthony, didn't she push back from her desk and take a break now and then? And Florence Nightingale, didn't she put down her nurse's hat and think silently about what to write in her essay on mysticism before she wrote it? And Sophia Foz, didn't she stop telling stories sometimes and just sit there? And didn't Black Elk just notice the sunlight glancing off his chair sometimes? And Starhawk, does she only talk and write, or does she too keep silence? Let us remember them all with our bodies. Let us remember them with the silence they too knew. Amen. As we move into our offering time, I share these words of Kristen Collins. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith together we have enough. Your gift will now be gratefully received.
Thank you, Stephen. That was beautiful. Stephen picked that out today to celebrate or for the Out of Darkness walk that many of us will be a part of this afternoon. Thank you. The Army Mullah by Reverend George Tiger. Are you Sergeant or Commandant? A young Afghan lieutenant asked me as he points to the cross on my chest. I try to explain what a chaplain is. In the end, he suggests Army Mullah, and I agree. Not the most accurate description, but the most meaningful for him. Chaplain has little meaning for him. Mullah, on the other hand, is something he knows and understands. Together with Army, we have a term that means something to the both of us. As the night wears on, the Afghan lieutenant and I speak more, with the help of an interpreter, about our very different faiths. We both affirm that the ultimate character of the divine is love. We both believe that the task of religion is to help us live more whole lives. We both participate in a religious community of fellow travelers who give us strength. Certainly the words we use are very different. Yet, as we do our best to translate our different faith languages into our native tongues, we discover more in common than we thought. We do not try to change each other, only to understand each other. Whatever religious tradition you call your own, you will probably find religious diversity even within it. We can believe we mean the same things when we use highly charged theological terms like God, Christ, Bible, or church teachings. Yet these words convey layers of meaning, not discrete definitions. It is important to remember this and do our own mental translations as we communicate with each other. That is what I call being religiously multilingual. You need not accept someone else's language as your own. You do not have to speak another religious language fluently, but you should try to understand enough that you can carry on a meaningful conversation, build mutual understanding, and forge lasting relationships across religious difference. Every such conversation is an opportunity to move the world toward peace.
Please rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing hymn 301, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores, spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children ask the reasons why. In our lives the answers show, and by our love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life's the time left in between, to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give what it means to live. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high. Spirit serve as we fly. Touch the earth to reach the sky.
It's a story that you know even if you've never heard it. We find this one in the Christian scriptures in Luke 10:38 through 42. How often do you hear me start sermons like that? After a long day of teaching and walking, Jesus entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the teacher's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by many tasks. So she came to Jesus and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." That resonates too, apparently. But he answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken." Now, the common interpretation of this story, what most preachers say about it, is that Martha was in the wrong. Mary, her sister, was right. Mary is sitting and listening to Jesus while Martha is doing all the work and allowing herself to be distracted from what she should be doing, which is spiritual growth and listening to the teachers and rabbis in her life. A common question that gets asked is, are you a Martha or a Mary? In other words, are you listening to God or letting yourself get distracted by the cares of the world? Now, as you might imagine, I'm going somewhere else with this. It is a valuable story for Unitarian Universalists. The original interpretation is even valuable for us, reminding us not to let all of our church life be about the work we do. It reminds us that our spiritual life, our search for truth and meaning, also does matter. When we're caught up in just doing the work, when you just come to church with your to-do list and your planner, you can forget other reasons why you're here, and you can resent the people who aren't doing the same kind of work or who might be focusing on spiritual growth alone. So this can be a valuable message, particularly for those of you who are on, let's say, more than 2 committees. You know who you are. Don't let the work you're doing for this community be a source of spiritual destruction. Don't let it get to the point where you resent the ones who aren't doing as much. So yes, the traditional interpretation of the Mary and Martha story does offer a lesson that has value. But it's not the one I'm going to focus on. The title of this sermon is Misjudging Martha. With the little bit of information we get from the seemingly familiar story, we come to a couple of conclusions. Martha's the hardworking, overstressed sister. Mary's the spiritual focused sister who meets the approval of her teacher. And this point is key. We fill in a lot of this story from our own lives, our own culture, and our own experiences. Many of us either have or could name people who personify the characters in the story. But what if what we know about the story is wrong? What if we've misjudged Martha? Theologian Mary Stormer Hansen says that while we've been told Martha welcomed Jesus into her home, in the original Greek, the story just says Jesus arrived in town and Martha welcomed him. It didn't mention her home at all. And although we all tend to imagine she's doing domestic tasks, offering refreshments, washing the dishes, baking pastries perhaps, it's interesting to note that in the original text, nothing beyond the word tasks is stated anywhere. So what assumptions do we make about the tasks Martha would have been up to? I know which ones I do. You just heard them. Would it change things to know that other writings about Martha tell us that she was one of the disciples in Jesus' inner circle? We see this in the Gnostic Gospels, where Martha and other female disciples have received knowledge of the mysteries from Jesus. In the Middle Ages, Martha was credited with many miracles, including bringing a young child back to life, changing water to wine at a banquet in her honor. And this one is my favorite, defeating a dragon that was plaguing a region in France. Right? Traditional Orthodox Christian icons or images of Martha frequently show her with a dragon at her feet. How does that hold up with the previous idea of Martha? The town she saved from the dragon still celebrates her today. Another set of texts suggests that Martha wasn't asking for Mary's help in the kitchen, but rather that both women were disciples of Jesus, and Mary was on the road with Jesus while Martha was teaching and preaching in their hometown. When Martha asked for her sister's help, it may have been with the work of ministry. Theologian Miguel de la Torre, in Reading the Bible from the Margins, says that for many, the main message of this familiar story is the need for believers not to worry about all the cares of the world, such as housework, not to be a Martha, but instead to be with Jesus and attend to spiritual matters, to be a Mary. But he writes, while such a message is uplifting, it falls short of uncovering the radical dismantling of a patriarchal system that was undertaken by Jesus. Through his actions, he denounced the assumption that women had no place in religious life. In fact, according to the wisdom of the time, if there was only one Torah, one set of scripture, left in the world, and it fell into the hands of a woman to care for it, it would have been better that the Torah be destroyed than have a woman touch it. How does that attitude influence how we remember women from that time? And let's be honest, there are people who feel that way today. The text indicates that Martha was distracted by her serving duties. This is him continuing. The Greek word Luke uses in the text for serving is diakonia, her duties in serving, rather than being in the kitchen, more likely corresponded to the office of essentially a church deacon. He goes on to point out that the phrase used to describe Mary sitting at Jesus' feet means she was studying the scriptures, the Torah, with Jesus. That means she would have to read it and touch it. So we have Martha engaged in diakonia, the root word of the modern church word for deacon, and her sister engaged in religious scholarship. Examining the context and structure of the story, we see that this is a radical affirmation of women's leadership in the early church. Putting multiple sources together, we now have images of Martha as a church-leading, wine-creating, resurrecting, dragon-slaying disciple who seeks a helping hand from her traveling sister. How does that change things? As with all stories in the Bible, the time and the context matters a great deal. People hearing stories from the Bible at the time they were first spoken or written understood the stories very differently than how we often do today. The challenge presented to us by biblical scholarship is the fact that we are studying something that came from a different culture, location, and time period. But this challenge is not limited to reading ancient texts. It's something we face on a smaller scale anytime we talk to someone else today. As we heard in our reading about the Armley chaplain, people can use the same words and mean vastly different things, depending on their own experiences and culture. So what opportunity does this truth offer us as Unitarian Universalists? UUs encounter challenges of interpretation and understanding on a regular basis. Every Sunday we gather for worship services. Have you ever wondered if the people you're here with are hearing and understanding the words of our hymns, readings, sermons, and discussions in the same way? Take a moment to consider just one word. Let's go with faith. I know we've talked about differing feelings about that one before. When you hear or use the word faith, what does it mean? Does everybody have note cards? Yes, and pens if you need them? Or pens to share? Okay. Now's when you get to use them. So I invite you to take just a minute to think about faith and write down what it means to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that with one word on one side, one word on the other side, and then you'll have an opportunity to chat for a couple of minutes if you're comfortable with that. So as I said, think about faith, write down what it means to you in just a few words. You don't have to do paragraphs. When you're ready, you can turn it over and do a different word. Let's try sacred on the other side. What does that mean to you? Sacred. And I want to invite you, as you're comfortable, if you're in the room, take a couple minutes and share with some people around you. If you're feeling super ambitious, go to a completely different part of the room and share with those people. If you're online, please feel free to share your words in chat and have a discussion there. Sure. Unless you don't want to. Okay. As you feel comfortable. Yeah. You can get a lot more if you can get in somewhere and sing it. Did you confirm the date of the Yeah, but then it's just when we do the next one, the ministers, they will also have Mother's Day, like, checking that, but. Well, they're not preaching on Mother's Day, so I want to do a Friday service, and I'll do this one. I can see a Friday service. It might have been there, which means two Sundays in a row, we're gonna do that with you. Bring Addie. She does liturgical dance at Christ Church. I mean, not really, but she'll just get up and dance. Oh, I'm gonna give them another minute. They're either talking about that or about something else now. I'll tell them to give it another minute. I'm gonna give you about another minute. All right, I'm going to invite you to come to a close on your conversations. How was that? Was it interesting? And it's an experiment that gives you just a glimpse into the greater reality in our lives. Did people mostly have different thoughts on what those two words meant? Or were you all in agreement? Different? All the same? So a mix. When we talk to each other, the same words can have different meanings and bring different feelings into them for each of us. We encounter it in our lives when we discuss religion, class, race, politics. I understand. Just like in the story of Martha, we apply our lives and our experiences to the world that surrounds us. Where it gets tricky is when we start to make assumptions about others based on our worldview. When we hear someone saying God on the street or in the store, what assumptions do they make about what they believe? Do we make about what they believe, about who they are? Do we allow for differences in understanding, in belief? Do we allow for the possibility that our assumptions about them are wrong? If we left another religion before becoming Unitarian Universalist, how does that impact how we see things? If we hear someone talking about faith or grace or God or prayer, especially when we know nothing else about them, do we consider the possibility that they might have something to teach us? Consider this. Have you ever admitted to someone that you go to church, but then feel the need to hastily explain not that kind of church? I see nods and hands. What's going on for you in that moment? What assumptions are you worried that the other person is making about the word church? And what assumptions does that mean that you're making about them? When we speak English to one another, we think that we are speaking the same language with a shared understanding of what the words mean. But we often aren't, especially about topics as important as religion or politics. Okay. Don't mention politics until after November. So what can we do about all of this? How can we have conversations with others, knowing that we're often speaking different languages, influenced by our own experiences with religion, culture, race, sex, and other things? It's essential that we find ways to make connections, that we find ways to talk with one another with a truth that goes deeper than the assumptions we make based simply on the words the other person uses. Maybe we could start by approaching one another as if we knew we were speaking a different language. Maybe instead of saying, not that kind of church, we could explain what we love about this place. If they use a religious word that makes you twitch, maybe it's God or Christ or faith, ask questions. Find out what that word means for them. Does it match what you think it means? Ask questions knowing that there is more to that person than the moment you were in with them right then. And then question your own assumptions. As George said in our reading today, that is what I call being religiously multilingual. You need not accept someone else's language as your own. You do not even have to speak another religious language fluently. But you should try to understand enough that you can carry on a meaningful conversation, build mutual understanding, and forge lasting relationships across religious differences. Every such conversation is an opportunity to move the world toward peace. My beloved spiritual companions, when faced with that person we might want to dismiss, may we humbly pause and remember that this person may be integral to our own search for truth and meaning. Whether this is an overworked church leader or a couple of people chatting about religion in the store, may we remember we might not be speaking the same language, but that shouldn't necessarily stop us from seeking to communicate. And may we remember that this person we think we have all figured out might be fighting dragons in their spare time. Blessed be.
Very good. All right, a few announcements. In your order of service, there is a listening circle today at 1, and if you want to sign up for next week, there's a QR code. Also, this QR code at the bottom isn't working right for the Found House. Wanda said there's one on the table that's correct. Form next week, we are going to have a what's on your ballot. There was a tease that the Northern Kentucky people might be here next week, but they are not able to be here. But we will still talk about what's on your ballot for next week before church. You can contact Amy for more information. Also, men's group has a function next week. And I'd like to invite Debbie up, as well as I think Nicole wants to make an announcement as well. There will not be a brown bag lunch with Rev Jenn this week.
Good morning. I want to tell you about a Bible I picked up yesterday, donated by a man named Gary Murray, and it's a German Bible that likely belonged to a member of this congregation when it was located down and over the Rhine. So it has to be over 100 years old. It's sitting on the table in Kroll-Pfeiffer if you want to take a look at it. I will warn you, be careful with the pages. It is so fragile. But I think it's interesting to see something from our previous, or our ancestors, maybe you could call them. But the man figured it out, Gary, because there was an order of service inside that had Reverend Eisenlohr's name on it. So anyway, enjoy it.
That is super cool. Today's the day. I'm Nicole Stanforth, and today is the day for the Out of the Darkness Walk to benefit the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I've talked about a couple different programs that they have. One today, I wanted to let you know they have, very appropriately, Soul Shop, to help teach clergy and other lay members of the church how to address issues with suicide and depression and such. So the logistics, it is today at Sawyer Point, and programming starts at 1. The walk itself starts at 1:45, so even if you're at, I forget which meeting it is in Kroll-Pfeiffer that's going to be until 1 o'clock, you can still make it. You can do it. And we're going to have the St. John's flag so that you can help find us, because unfortunately it's Sawyer Point. You can't say, oh, we'll be at the third pillar from the right. So right now we have raised $1,718.23. And we have 28 team members. Now, I know there's a lot going on today with listening circles and other things, and so a lot of my people that are regularly able to make it are not, so please don't leave me walking alone. Please join me. I'll hope to see you later today. Thank you.
We'll now sing as our closing hymn 318, We Would Be One. And I'll say not too slow. We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long, and we can bend it toward justice. Go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice in our daily lives and the larger world. And go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our lives. Go in peace, go in love.